Jeanette and welcome back to Meaning Making. Now today we're going to start a series on dysfunctional family backgrounds or childhood trauma in some ways. But before we can start with what a dysfunctional family looks like and how they function and how they continue functioning in that dysfunctionality, we first have to look at what does a functional, good, healthy relationship look like in a family. What does a good and healthy family look like? Now the first thing is, even as a child, your interests and your character is accepted. Who you are is accepted. You can be whoever you are. Now that doesn't mean you get away with murder. That doesn't mean you're not disciplined. But the things that you're interested in and that your personality is accepted. There are rules and boundaries in this family, and they are honored by everyone, even the adults. There is consistency in this family. You're not getting home one day to loving parents and the next day to absolute chaos and just not sure what to expect when you walk into the house every day. There's consistency in parenting, consistency in the rules and what we're allowed to do and what not, and the boundaries in the house. There's also flexibility. It's not so rigid that you just can't breathe and can't live and just can't do anything spontaneous. It's not too rigid. The child and the adults feel safe and secure. They don't feel like they need to stress about feeling unsafe or feeling like abuse could happen at any moment. Whether it's emotional abuse, physical, sexual, they are not afraid of the people around them in their family. Then the child is not the parent. Sometimes, actually quite often, parents are just irresponsible and they could maybe be addicted to something or just abuse substances or have some kind of mental illness or be abusive or whatever. And normally then the eldest child would kind of take on the role of the parent. And they would from a very young age have to fulfill the role of an adult. So in a healthy family, this doesn't happen. The parent is the parent and the child is the child. They're not friends. They have a parent-child relationship. And the child is not, and adults are not expected to be perfect. It's okay for them to make mistakes. They don't feel like all hell is going to break loose when they get home, when they just made a mistake. They learn that this is a normal part of life and that they will be accepted for it. Now let's look at what does a dysfunctional family look like. It could look like many different things, but these are the most common kinds of things that you would find in a dysfunctional family. The first one is that there's no empathy. It's only about me and I am important and everybody must just do whatever I decide and what I say yes to. So there are no boundaries, or the boundaries are, there are boundaries, but they're very, very unhealthy. They're way too rigid or way too porous and just all over the place. There's too many rules and strict rules, or there's just no rules at all and you can just do whatever you want. Then personal possessions could be just taken at any moment or broken without anybody saying sorry for that. There's no privacy. I'm going to use one of my clients as an example. So she grew up in a home where whenever she would receive mail from her grandma or whoever, her mother would open it before she even gives it to her. So there was no privacy there. Like her mother would just walk into the bathroom while she's having a bath. And even though that seems normal, but if you feel like as a child you don't like that and you would like your privacy, that becomes really dysfunctional and not okay. Or she always also was forced to have a bath with her brother when they were little. And at some point she felt like, I'm getting too big for this, I want to bath by myself now. And it wasn't allowed for quite some time after she voiced that she didn't want to do that anymore. So there's a lot of privacy issues, constant conflict and aggression. This child is constantly fearing going home and fearing making a little mistake that would upset anyone, constantly just walking on eggshells and being hyper vigilant and so scared to just make ructions and create conflict. So this child tends to just kind of disappear. Then there's role reversion. We've spoken a bit about that, where the child has to take on an adult role because the adults are just not responsible and not emotionally available. There could also be isolation from society, where they are just kept at home and they're not allowed to ever go out with their friends or just have their own life and grow as people. They're just completely isolated and always have to be at home. There could be secrecy or denial or rigid rules. Like, I remember that she told me that her mother used to take her to school and just tell her, listen, remember now, whatever happens in this family is our business. You don't tell it to other people. After she was abused by her father. So that's absolutely dysfunctional. And denial, we just don't speak about it again. We just pretend it didn't happen. Even though you have an eye that's standing like this after being abused, we just pretend it didn't happen and continue like normal. So that there's a sense of peace, but it's false peace. And there's this elephant in the room and it builds resentment and it's just so unhealthy. Then, of course, perfectionism. Expecting your child to be perfect and have these unrealistic expectations of them. And it could be the other way around. It could be children expecting that from their parents. Whatever way it goes, expecting that is not realistic and it's not okay. Then emotional or verbal abuse obviously could come in many different forms. Children also not being allowed to have an opinion or feel emotions. She was always feeling like she's not allowed to say how she really feels. She's not allowed to have an opinion. She has to just do whatever her dad tells her. And she wasn't allowed to have feelings because her dad didn't like it. He sees emotion like weakness. So whenever she would cry, her mother used to just tell her, go hide in your room, don't let your dad see. Instead of being comforted when she cries, she was told to go hide and not show it to people. So this could also come in the form of using some members of the family against each other. There's a lot of dysfunctional families operating this way, where conflict is constantly being created by one family member who's just gossiping or telling stories that are maybe likely not even true to just cause a fight. And that happens especially when there is a narcissist in the family. They love conflict and they love to see how relationships break up. And then this family could also have a very conditional love kind of rule in the house, where you need to do specific things and achieve specific things in order to be loved. And if you can't achieve those things, then you're just not loved. So this is more or less what a healthy and an unhealthy dysfunctional home looks like. And now we're going to go into the different kinds of dysfunctional families, and then also what roles children take on to cope and survive in families like that, and how we can handle that. Stay tuned. Click on the like button and on the little bell and join my YouTube channel, because there's much more to come.